The sky turns black, and an army of possessed people surrounds a small diner. A baby is the only hope for saving humanity, but will they make it out alive? Today, I'll recap the 2010 horror action film, Legion, so keep your eyes wide open and stay safe. The movie starts with a bang as the archangel Michael falls to Earth in Los Angeles. With sheer determination, he slices off his own wings and heads to a weapons warehouse. After loading up with enough firepower to start a war, he steals a police car and drives toward a secluded spot, the Paradise Falls Diner, on the edge of the Mojave Desert. At the diner, a mix of characters crosses paths. Kyle, a single dad heading to Los Angeles, pulls over for a break. Inside, he meets Bob Hansen, the diner's grumpy atheist owner, and Jeep, Bob's hardworking son who fixes cars and has an unshakable crush on Charlie. Charlie, a pregnant waitress, carries a baby that isn't Jeep's, but that doesn't stop him from caring for her with quiet devotion. She plans to give the baby up for adoption, not wanting the responsibility of motherhood. Percy, the diner's short-order cook, has his own scars, a missing hand, and a soldier's past that haunts his every move. Things get even more complicated with the arrival of the Anderson family, Howard and Sandra, a married couple stranded while waiting for their car to be repaired, and their rebellious teenage daughter, Audrey. Audrey's wardrobe choices scream rebellion, with outfits that make her look more like she belongs in a nightclub than a family road trip. Bob pulls Jeep aside with a look of weary wisdom and tells him to let go of his feelings for Charlie. "You're chasing a dream that's never going to come true," he warns, his voice heavy with the weight of a man who's seen too much disappointment. But Jeep's heart doesn't listen to reason. Suddenly, the diner's lights flicker, the static-filled radio crackles, and the phone line dies. An eerie silence falls. Just then, an elderly woman named Gladys shuffles inside. At first, she seems like any sweet grandmotherly figure, but that illusion shatters the moment she speaks. Her eyes darken as she spits venomous words at Charlie, hissing that her unborn baby is doomed to burn in hell. Then, turning to Sandra, she sneers, calling her a prostitute with a grin that twists into something monstrous. Howard, in disbelief and anger, storms over to confront her. The fragile old woman moves faster than a striking snake, lunging forward and sinking her teeth deep into Howard's neck. Blood sprays as her jaws tear into his flesh, and his agonized scream fills the diner. Chaos erupts as Kyle pulls out a gun and fires, the blast sending Gladys crumpling to the floor. But even death doesn't seem to silence the madness. Before anyone can catch their breath, the windows darken with a massive swarm of flies. Thousands upon thousands of buzzing, writhing insects swarm the building. Their droning hum grows louder, drowning out every other sound. Escape becomes impossible as the flies seal off every door and window, trapping the terrified patrons inside. Desperation grips the group as they realize they are cut off from the world, and any hope of getting Howard to a hospital fades into a nightmare of buzzing wings and blood-soaked terror. As darkness falls and the entire sky turns an ominous black, Michael bursts into the diner like a storm of fury and focus. Without wasting a second, he tosses weapons to the terrified patrons, his voice sharp and commanding as he tells them to prepare for war. The rumble of engines fills the air, growing louder as hundreds of cars swarm toward Paradise Falls. The vehicles screech to a halt, and from them emerge hordes of possessed people, twisted faces, hollow eyes, and mouths filled with gnashing teeth. They don't hesitate. Like a tidal wave of pure evil, the possessed charge at the diner, their bodies slamming against the walls and windows with bone-cracking force. Michael leads the desperate fight, his every move swift and precise. Bullets fly, glass shatters, and screams fill the air as the battle for survival rages on. But even with their best efforts, the darkness claims its first victim, Howard. His bloodied hands claw at the ground as he's dragged into the swarm, his cries fading into the shadows. When the dust settles for a brief moment, Michael gathers the frightened survivors. His words cut deeper than any blade. "God has lost faith in mankind," he says, his voice heavy with sadness and defiance. "He's sent his angels to wipe out the human race." Fear grips the room as the truth sinks in. Then, Michael turns his gaze to Charlie, his eyes filled with a fierce, unshakable belief. "Your baby must live," he tells her, "because it's destined to save humanity." Shock ripples through the group, but Michael's conviction does not waver. He admits that he disobeyed God's command to kill the unborn child because, unlike his heavenly brothers, he still believes in humanity's goodness. The weight of destiny presses down on them all as Michael delivers one last warning. The baby is coming. Soon, a month early. With time slipping away and the forces of darkness closing in, survival becomes a race against fate, and every breath could be their last. As the sun creeps over the horizon, the nightmare is far from over. Sandra steps outside, and her scream pierces the morning air like a blade. There, behind the diner, Howard hangs from a makeshift cross, his body covered in grotesque, oozing boils. His skin bubbles and splits, the sight more horrifying than anything she's ever seen. Desperation fuels her as she rushes to free him, but it's too late. With a sickening hiss, Howard's body erupts, spewing a blast of burning acid into the air. The searing liquid flies everywhere, the ground hissing and steaming as it eats through everything it touches. Percy leaps into action, his instincts from his soldier days kicking in. Without a second thought, he shields Sandra with his own body. The acid strikes Percy instead. He gasps in agony as the deadly substance consumes him. His sacrifice is noble, but it's also final. Sandra watches in horror as Percy's lifeless body collapses to the ground. The death, the terror, and the overwhelming loss of her husband and now her protector shatter Sandra's mind. She screams and thrashes wildly, her sanity slipping into the void. It takes all the strength of the remaining survivors to hold her down, her wild eyes darting with fear and madness as they restrain her. Inside, tension grips the survivors like a vice. The static on the radio suddenly clears, and a voice crackles through the speaker. A message of hope. There are others. Scattered groups of people are still fighting, and one refuge is nearby. The temptation to leave is strong, but Michael's warning is clear. It's too dangerous. Out there we're sitting ducks. As night falls, their fragile hope crumbles under the weight of reality. The ground trembles as a second wave of possessed souls emerges from the darkness. Their eyes glow with a malevolent fire, their twisted bodies driven by an endless hunger for destruction. The battle for survival rages once more, and this time, there is no room for mistakes. Kyle, ever the hero, falls into a deadly trap. A young girl steps outside the diner looking completely normal and climbs into a minivan. She seems like a lost soul, desperate for help, but just as Kyle jumps in to save her, everything turns upside down. The girl isn't what she seems. In the blink of an eye, she's surrounded by a horde of possessed people, their eyes burning with evil. Kyle is caught in the chaos, realizing too late that he's been tricked by a creature pretending to be innocent. His screams are drowned out as the possessed tear into him, ending his life in a heartbeat. Inside the diner, things are even more intense. Charlie, in the middle of a life-or-death moment, suddenly goes into labor. She's about to give birth to the baby that could save humanity. Audrey and Michael work quickly to help her, their hands steady despite the fear and madness swirling around them. But just as the baby's cry fills the room, a loud trumpet sounds, echoing through the desert night. It's the sign of the archangel Gabriel, Michael's brother and leader of the army sent to destroy mankind. His approach is a death sentence for everyone in the diner. The group is thrown into a panic as Sandra, losing all sense of reason, breaks free from her restraints. In her frantic state, she grabs the baby and tries to hand it over to the possessed outside, believing that it will end the chaos. But Michael doesn't hesitate. With a heavy heart, he executes Sandra, stopping her from giving the baby to the enemy. Moments later, Gabriel steps into the diner, his presence chilling. The air turns cold as he faces the survivors. Without a second thought, he attacks. Bob, who had been holding on to hope, is struck down fatally. His body crumples, the light leaving his eyes. Michael knows there's no time left. He urges the remaining survivors to escape, his voice full of urgency. He pulls Jeep aside and gives him one last piece of advice. Find the prophets. Learn to read the instructions. These words hang in the air as the battle for survival rages on, and the darkness closes in. The battle for survival takes another dark turn, as the hordes of possessed humans seem to stop at a strange force. They can't get any closer to Charlie's baby. It's as if something supernatural is protecting the child. Jeep, Audrey, and Charlie realize they need to escape. With the baby in tow, they make a desperate run for Michael's stolen cruiser, their only hope of getting out alive. Meanwhile, the skies above darken as Gabriel, the powerful archangel, faces off with his brother Michael. Their fight shakes the ground as they clash with all their might, both determined to win. But Gabriel, with his strength and fury, lands a deadly blow. With a roar, he stabs Michael through the chest with his massive morning star. The force of the strike is overwhelming, and Michael's body crumples to the ground. Just like that, he's gone, his body vanishing into thin air, leaving the survivors with nothing but sorrow and fear. Back at the diner, Bob, now fading fast from his injuries, knows there's no time left. In one last act of defiance, he uses his lighter to ignite the gas main, triggering a massive explosion. The blast tears through the diner, flames roaring high into the sky, incinerating the remaining possessed and himself. The explosion echoes through the desert, a tragic end to the battle they fought so hard to survive. Jeep, his body now covered in the same strange tattoos that once marked Michael, realizes something important. The tattoos are the instructions Michael left for him. With this newfound knowledge, Jeep prepares for whatever comes next, but things quickly take a turn for the worse. Gabriel, furious and determined, appears once again. A fierce fight breaks out between him and the survivors. In the chaos, Audrey is struck down, her life taken in a cruel instant. The loss hits hard, but Jeep and Charlie push on, their fight for survival not over yet. Gabriel corners them in the nearby mountains, his anger burning bright. He's just about to end it all when something incredible happens. From above, Michael descends from the heavens. He's healed, his wings restored, and his power returned to full force as an archangel. The sight of him is both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Michael faces Gabriel, and their confrontation shakes the very air around them. Michael tells Gabriel that while he gave God what he wanted, it was Michael who gave God what he needed. This was God's plan all along, to test his angels. Michael believes that in their blind loyalty, the angels had lost sight of what truly mattered. Gabriel, stunned and ashamed, realizes that he has failed. He turns away, leaving the battle behind. Michael then turns to Jeep, his eyes filled with purpose. He tells Jeep that he is the true protector of the child and that they will meet again. With that, Michael spreads his wings and flies off into the sky, leaving the survivors with a sense of hope and wonder. Charlie and Jeep, still reeling from everything they've been through, finally make their way to the top of the mountain. From the peak, they look down and see a small town in the valley below, a sign that there might still be hope for the future after all. Charlie, Jeep, and the baby finally start driving away, their hearts still racing from everything they've just survived. As the car moves down the road, the camera pulls back to reveal something surprising. The back of their vehicle is packed with weapons. They're ready for whatever comes next, knowing that their fight isn't over yet. The road ahead is unknown, but they're prepared to face whatever challenges it holds. So, which awesome movie should we recap next? Drop your suggestions in the comments below and let's make it happen. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button so you never miss out on our movie recaps. We've got plenty more coming your way. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Produced by Warner Movie Recaps.